This is Deep Dive into Joy, and I'm your host, Gina Rickner. Hey, Joy listeners, it's your host, Gina. Welcome back to today's episode on Deep Dive into Joy. I'm so glad that you're here. I have Becky Luzier here with me today. She's a good friend, and today's episode will be something really special. I'm sitting down with Becky as she shares her powerful testimony from a teen until now. She has walked through a lot, but also how she saw God show up right in the middle of pain. So let's get into it. Hi, Becky. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So I like to start every episode just with a fun question. What is your favorite drink?
It depends on the season.
I know, me too.
So right now I brought a poppy with me. I think it's the raspberry rose one because I was at Sheetz on my way here. So
I keep wanting to try the poppy. I don't know if I'd like it because I'm into Olipop.
I like Olipop too. I like both.
I feel like they're completely different though.
They are. Yeah, but usually anything with caffeine is what I'm.
Yeah. So I know Becky from her old coffee shop. That's, where we met, and we miss it greatly. It was one of our favorite places to go. But Becky is a mom, she's a wife, and she currently just graduated from the police academy. Her story is real, raw, and full of God's fingerprints. Okay, Becky, can you take us back to your teenage years? Like, what were you going through during that time, and lead us up to now? Everything from the police academy to being a mother, and kind of just how you were led here. And then we will talk about how you find joy in everyday life after that.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm a little prepared for this kind of life flyover. When you're doing police interviews for different departments, it's extremely thorough. It's probably the one thing I was least prepared for, was how much I was going to have to dive into my life and my past, which is awesome. I'm so thankful that they do that all these departments did that. But it also boiled up so much inside me that I was like, wow, I can really see how the Lord showed up. Like, I shouldn't be okay.
Yeah.
I should not be here today.
It's crazy.
Not be okay. I should be on the other side of the law. That would make more sense.
Yeah.
So, when I was a teenager, just to kind of set the scene, my parents got divorced when I was in elementary school. I saw my dad regularly every other weekend, and then a week vacation in the summer. Pretty typical for that time for divorced parents.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had a farm. So when I was at my dad's, we worked really hard on the farm. He was just sort of building it up. And my mom was a nurse, and she had a chronic illness. It was an autoimmune disease. And she also had this co-occurring condition that caused a lot of scar tissue to form in her body. So she had a very hard time breathing, and she was tired all the time. So as I got into my teen years, she was working night shift as an LPN, and she trusted me way more than she ever should have. And I took advantage of that as a snotty, bratty teenager. And from my years of 13 to 16, I got in a lot of trouble, but I didn't get caught, so to speak.
Yeah. So
I was, spending a lot of time in the woods at parties and in really dangerous situations. I actually got into a car accident at one point, and I walked home in the middle of the night.
Oh my.
And somehow the police never got involved or anything like that. Thankfully, I wouldn't have the career today if I would have gotten caught between 13 and 16. So I was just in a lot of situations that put me in a bad spot to be vulnerable to abuse. And I was abused at different parties and things like that. But I had a hard time putting a name to that because I knew I put myself in those positions. Mm-hmm. So it never crossed my mind to blame a boy for doing something to me because I've always had a sense of ownership over my own decisions. So, and I also think it's a protective mechanism where I'm like, no, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Even though that's not necessarily what I wanted to do, I put myself in a position for you to do that. So it's my own fault. So anyway, that was just a very quick flyover of my early teen years. When I was 16, I got my permit right away. I was working from about 14. I worked at a little ice cream stand close to my house. And at 16, I was finally able to drive, so I could pick up some more hours. And all the partying and stuff sort of fell away because now I had a job and I had purpose, and that was preferred for me. I like working hard. And I went to the VOTEC school in our school district for cosmetology my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. And they had a program called Skills USA, where you can compete on many levels in a whole bunch of different types of competitions. So I was in cosmetology. I could have competed in like a cosmetology competition where I'm doing up styles or whatever else. But I chose a community service project. And with that community service project, I volunteered at a local shelter for domestic violence. And me and a team of 2 or 3 other students in my class, my peers, we raised money for the shelter, and we did some trainings with a local organization who helps women get PFAs, got them like cell phones, and helped them get out of violent situations.
Oh, that's neat.
So while I was doing that and I was working, I met what would be my future husband, my first husband. And so I was just busy. I was running around all the time. He was a lot older than me, and I lied to my parents about that when I met him. But he had a stable job, and I thought that was like the only thing you should be looking for. Because to me, stability was very important. So lots of plates were spinning at the same time. I have this relationship that I should have seen a lot of red flags flying, but when you're 16,
we never do. Yeah.
So, the fact that he was almost 10 years older than me should have been the biggest flag. And I was very difficult to manage for my parents. So they would say things, but I just did whatever I wanted. And while now I can look back and say, like, no one stood up for me, no one protected me, I also made that very difficult for them to do. So it was sort of this perfect storm. And both my parents thought it better for them to just sort of walk that out with me and be there when I fall instead of trying to stop me from doing what I wanted, because typically that drove me in the other direction.
Yeah.
So they did the best they could with what they had. And I have a hard time saying they should have done this or should have done that, because I don't know, it's tough. Like, teenagers, right? It's like hard to know.
And I'm always saying, I'm learning with you. Like, I'm a first time parent. You're, my first child. Like, we're learning together.
Yeah, for sure. It's like every season I'm learning just as much as they are.
Yeah.
I've never parented you at this age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my teenage years, like, I grew up going to church, and I was saved at a very young age, probably around 6 or 7, having an understanding of the gospel. And I remember sitting in church throughout my very young teenager years, like saying, every time the pastor would do like an altar call, I would say like, oh God, I give you my heart again because I messed up last week. Like, I didn't have that full understanding. I felt like I had to continue to be saved like every Sunday. And I carried around a lot of shame through my teenage years because I knew I was living these 2 lives. I was definitely having sex before marriage, and I was promiscuous before I met at 16, before I met my long-term boyfriend, who would be my husband. And, I just had this very like confused view of God and theology. And I had a very good view of grace, though, because I think that came from my parents. I never had to question their love for me. I always felt solid in that. And so that sort of just rolled downhill. So that's how I viewed God. To an extreme of like, grace. I'll just keep messing up and ask for forgiveness.
I know.
So anyway, starting again at 16, volunteering with domestic violence shelter. And then I had to present this project to a panel of judges at the state level. And when I presented what we did, I got so emotional, I was crying during our presentation, and we won because the judges were like, we could tell that your whole heart and soul was into this. So as a part of that, I'll probably cry now talking about it. As a part of that, I realized while I was in the shelter volunteering, I would babysit kids, like clean the house, because moms could work through like classes to get credits for diapers or food or whatever.
Wow.
And
do they still do that program? I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, it's fine. That home is actually closed.
Okay.
Now. I'll be an officer in a different county than the county we live in.
Okay.
So I'm not sure of all of the resources locally.
Yeah.
That is part of my to-do list coming up, is learning all of the local resources that we do have going on, that because it was amazing. It was
that would be great if we had something in this community.
Yeah, for sure. So we worked with one in Clearfield, and then we worked with one in DuBois. And we were able to get all new bedding for the one in DuBois. And we did a deep clean on that one. And then Clearfield was the one that I actually volunteered in a lot more. But I saw a gap in law enforcement at that point where, the women and the kids would tell me stories of how when the cops showed up, they were just so terrified, and they didn't want to tell the whole story because they didn't know how safe the officers were, or there wasn't a lot of communication. And then I would hear stories of the really good, caring officers that showed up, and they're firm because that's their job. And so they're trying to maintain the chaos that's happening. But they took that extra step of really making sure that the kids understood what was going on, and that the mom knew what was happening, and that she really understood the next steps to take. And I just thought, I want to be that. Like, that's the first face that these people see on the worst day of their life. And I want to be that face. I don't ever hope that tragedy happens.
Right.
But when it happens, I want to be one of the first ones there.
Yeah. If you can make a difference in the chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So my plan, as I kept working through high school, was to go to the Air Force. And I wanted to do security forces in the Air Force, which is kind of like their police, base security, and they like guard nuclear stuff, and it's pretty cool. But
sounds scary to me.
Thankfully, a lot of people don't try to like break into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true.
But my goal was to go to the Air Force and then go to the State Police Academy when I got out, because at that point you needed a college degree or service time. So I set up an appointment with a recruiter, and my mom and dad were both there, and the recruiter never showed up. And I was so disenchanted as a 17-year-old girl that I was like, this is a sign that I'm not supposed to go. And my boyfriend at the time, of course, was like, yeah, you should just stay home. Like, you can just do hair and go to college and go that route instead. And I never tried again to connect with that recruiter. So instead, I shifted gears, and my plan was now after graduation to start college for a degree in psychology. I thought that would help me along in my law enforcement career. Excuse me. And from there, then one day go to police academy. And state trooper was what I wanted to be. My uncle was state trooper. I thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world. He looked so cool.
It's those hats. Yeah, it's the hat for sure.
Now I think hats are stupid looking. They are pretty slick though. Yeah, they're pretty good looking. But so I graduated high school. Very mediocre. I was like middle of my class. I didn't try.
I was the same way.
Yeah, I think, man, if I would have tried, I could have done really good things. But I graduated, and I was working in a salon, which wasn't a passion of mine. It was just something that I was good at. And I found that out by going to Votech. I didn't have to try. I was just naturally good at it. And it filled me up in the way of connection because I'm a people person. So I would get these people in my chair, these women, and we would just have hours of talk time while I'm coloring their hair and giving them a new look. And it's something that I grew to love over the years. But my goal was still do this, get myself through college, because I made okay money, better than minimum wage, and then move on to a police academy. So I graduated in June, was working in a salon, and then December I got pregnant. So that was the end of that.
Yeah. It was the end of my dreams too at 19.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, I moved in with my boyfriend, and my dad called me and he said, "You're going to end up pregnant and you're not going to go to school." And no, I won't. I will not. I'm going to overcome. I'm not going to be a statistic. Well, here we are.
Yeah.
And my oldest son, love him so much. Like, I can't even imagine not having him.
Right.
And I tell my kids this all the time. You guys were not mistakes whatsoever.
Yes, I tell my daughter that too.
Just because I didn't plan you does not mean that you were a mistake. Like, we got to grow up together.
Or love you any less.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's a good way to put it. I like that. We got to grow up together.
Yeah. And so
that's beautiful.
Now my oldest, he's almost 20. He's in the Air Force. And he and I were doing room clearing drills the same week. And it was so cool while I was in the police academy. And I'm calling him and he's telling me what they were doing. And I'm telling him, and I'm like, this is not anything I ever thought we would be talking about at the same time.
It's amazing where God takes you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. So I pivoted pretty quickly, which is kind of my way. I can be very fluid. It's sort of like a gift. I think God just put that in me. And so when I got pregnant, I'm like, well, okay, I'm making pretty good money as a stylist. There's other jobs too that are more flexible, and we'll figure it out. And my boyfriend and I at the time decided to get married. We had a real small wedding. And I was like, well, my life didn't go as I initially planned, but I'm still going to have a plan. Yeah. Because I need a plan. And I'm in charge of me. I'm in charge of my life. So, I'm a little bit of a control freak. So, like, when things start feeling out of control, I just grab whatever I can and I, like, throw a plan together. And I'm like, okay, that plan didn't work. Here's the new plan. Yeah. Execute.
We always have to be in control, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
And God shows me over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. He's like, you're not the boss.
I know.
And I'm still learning. Yeah. So, so at that point, I just kept going. I didn't really like grieve the loss of what I had dreamed or what I'd hoped. I just kept going, doing the next thing. So my husband at the time, he ended up having this really weird cyst on his brain and needed a surgery to deal with it. So I had planned, we'll say that word again, I had planned his time off for his surgery while I was still pregnant, and then he should be back to work by the time I would need to take off for maternity leave. Well, my son was born 5 weeks premature.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we were just married, like, not long. We got married while I was pregnant, and then he had his surgery, and then my son was born 5 weeks preemie, and holy crap, everything was, like, off the rails. It felt like, thankfully he was healthy. He was born 6 pounds, 10 ounces. Like, he would have been a monster if he would have been there the whole time.
Yeah, like my son, 9 pounds, 4 ounces.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like a lunker. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he would have been huge. And he stayed in the NICU for 1 week, and then he came home. He was so strong.
Wow.
But then we are, a month of no work for both of us. It overlapped. And that was super humbling for me. I had to call my dad and ask for money for rent. And I remember just crying on the phone, like, I thought I had it figured out, and I didn't. I'm sorry.
And he's like, I told you so.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's like, stop bawling.
You're going to hate that.
I'm going to give you the money, and you're going to pull your bootstraps up, and you're going to keep going.
Yeah. That's awesome. He had grace for you.
Yeah. Yeah, he really did. And he helped. And he always did. He was always there when I needed him. But it was always with okay, now keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Pull the bootstraps are and keep moving. And that was really good. So yeah, at that point, I'm kind of in survival mode at that point. Now that I look back, I can see that. My first husband was unfaithful from the very beginning. So I was already finding evidence of him talking to other women and, like addiction issues that he had going on with, internet pornography and things. So, I've also been thinking about how to talk about this on the podcast because I want to tell my story.
Right.
But other people's lives have intersected with that and caused a lot of pain in my story. And I was just praying about it. And
I want to, I want things to be real on this podcast. And, it's called Deep Dive for a reason, but I want it to be what my guest feels comfortable with. So
yeah,
if there's parts that you don't feel like sharing, that's completely up to you.
Well, I always have this like sort of tension of, because I'm an oversharer, I would say. Like,
me too.
And I never want to throw someone else under the bus unnecessarily.
Right.
But at the same time, when when someone else's story intersects with mine and it was causing pain and there was not a repentance or anything like that, like it, and this is my opinion, and maybe people in the comments light me up and that's fine. But my viewpoint is like, you gave up the right to your dignity or to your protection. Like, I don't have to protect your behavior or cover for that.
True. Was he a Christ believer? No?
He said he was.
Okay.
He said he was. So that's between him and the Lord.
Right.
Ultimately. So from the very beginning, there was a lot of, just a lot of pain in the marriage, and I felt very alone. And I thrive in independence. So I'm trying to remember. I used to be able to say it in a way of like, it was like having the best job with the worst coworker ever.
Yeah.
But I could make all the calls because he was so passive, but he was also so abusive to me in so many other ways. He never hit me. And he was not a yeller. He didn't raise his voice at me, but he was very emotionally abusive, and there was a lot of sexual abuse in our marriage too.
Wow. And
as a Christian, that's hard to put your finger on and say, my husband is sexually abusive, because theology can get really mixed up in there.
And you don't like to bring anything to the light.
Yeah.
When it needs to be.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a really good point.
Really needs to be lit up.
Yep. Because
that way that darkness can't exist anymore.
Yeah. And it grew. Like, it just festered and grew for the duration of our 9-year marriage. But God was so faithful throughout the whole thing. And I should say and God, because it's not a one or. It's like both things were existing at the same time. There was all this pain and not many bright spots. And I remember praying for the Lord to bring my mind, my heart, and my body along into my marriage. Like, just asking God, I don't know what else to do. I am so filled with pain, but I feel so stuck. I had Isaiah at 19, and then my next daughter was born not quite 2 years later. And then there was a 4-year gap, and then we had 2 more 18 months apart. And I planned my other 3 kids. The first one was not planned, but the other 3 were planned. And I was thriving on the idea of a family I was trying to build with the hope for reconciliation and repentance on my husband's part for so long. It was my heart cry. Like, I prayed so hard for God to help me love him, to help me show up for him, to forgive. And I forgave and I forgave. And I truly did. I didn't hold those things over his head. I didn't bring things up and try to slam him over them. He even came home from work one time and decided that he was going to quit his job and go back to nursing school.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that was a dream he ever had or anything to do. And our second child was only, I don't even think she was a year old at that point when he decided that. And so now I'm these 2 little babies at home, and I got to figure out how to make money because he just decided he's going to go pursue his dream. And me at the time, I'm like, well, I need to support this. I need to make sure that I'm supporting him, making him feel loved and validated and all the things. And I put so much weight on myself that I was turning myself into the savior rather than actually giving him the discomfort of needing to change. I was making life too easy for him.
Yeah.
But we only know what we know. And the Lord used that so much to grow me in my humility. And what ended up happening was I started idolizing a family that I dreamed would be one day that wasn't actually reality. So throughout the years of that marriage, they were just very, very hard years, so many lonely years, so many things not talked about with friends or church family. We hopped churches for a while. We would get somewhere and then, maybe a guy started asking some questions that he thought was, he's like, oh, they're just nosy. They don't, And so he isolated me a lot too, because he didn't want to be in the light. So my friendships were very, very few throughout those years. Finally, when our 4th child was about 18 months old, give or take, there was another affair, and the abuses had gotten so bad that I finally left. And I took the 4 kids and moved across town to a little 2-bedroom trailer, and I thought I was going to die. I I remember sitting in our marriage house before I left because he wouldn't leave. He kept coming back. And I tried to get him to move out. I tried to get him to go live with his parents. Like, I'm like, we have this house. Like, I need this for the kids. And he wouldn't leave. So eventually I found a trailer and I rented it out. And I remember sitting in our house before I left and just saying, like, God, I did what I was supposed to do. I forgave. And it's not changing him. Like, I don't know what to do. I have to go.
Yeah, it's like, how much more pain can you take, you know?
And now our kids are getting older now to where they're starting to see interactions. And I don't want them to end up in a marriage like this because they see us doing this. They see mom putting up with these things. They see how dad's treating her. And so, yeah, there were just, it finally came to a head and I moved out. And at the time, my pastor at the time, pointed me in the direction of a ministry based out of Kentucky, and they're called Pure Life Ministries. And they deal specifically with people that have sexual addiction issues and victims of sexual addiction abuses. So it was life-changing. They ran a 12-week counseling from home program. So even though they were in Kentucky, they also have a live-in facility in Kentucky, actually, where it's for men, where men can go and live there for 6 months, and it's rehab essentially.
Okay, but that's great.
Christ-centered and biblically sound. It's so good. It's so wonderful what they do there. But so I did their home program, and I was connected with a counselor, and I spent 6 months in a very, very, very intense environment of counseling and scripture study with my counselor and on my own. And man, it was like God took me and put me in a catapult and pulled me way back and was like, okay, you want to heal, here we go.
Yeah,
and,
let's go.
Yeah, it was a ride. And I was attending a local church at the time, and that was fine, but there was so much I was going through that now I was talking about it all. And man, it just made people so uncomfortable, which I get.
Yeah.
It's definitely not fun stuff to talk about, but I was so discouraged at how it was not accepted.
Yeah. I think there's so much in the world right now of your same issues. And it's like, it does need talked about. It does need brought into light. And I think people need to start getting comfortable with it because we need these spiritual leaders to step up and start helping these people.
Yeah, for sure. And in a way that isn't just seeing them as a project, a project or something that needs fixed, but in a way that's just walking next to them. I always say the best thing that pastor ever did for me was tell me he couldn't help me and point me in the direction of somebody that could.
Yeah.
It was the best thing anybody could ever do for me. And I know that was God. God intervened in that moment. And without the men and women at Pure Life Ministries who walked that out with me, they held me accountable. So instead of what a lot of women a lot of women at 29 leave their abusive husbands, they're at the bar, they're seeking attention, they're on dating apps, they're drinking or whatever else. And I'm not shaming any of that because holy crap, I get it.
Yeah.
You just went through so much. But instead of that, I had accountability and I had homework that I had to do. And when my kids weren't home, which was the first time, I was with them all the time up until that point. Even when I worked at the salon, they went with me. So it was such an adjustment. And I didn't know where my life was going to go. I didn't have any education. I had my cosmetology license, but I have 4 kids.
Yeah.
What am I going to do?
Right.
So
that literally would have just covered daycare these days.
Oh my gosh, yeah, for sure. So I slowly started getting my footing, and step by step, I always told my ex-husband, I said, I'm only doing what you're pushing me to do. So you had an affair, I moved out. I didn't file for divorce. I am still willing for reconciliation. Like, God can do something with this story if you surrender and if you repent and if you're truly repentant. And hey, how about you go to the live-in program? Like, you're battling stuff here. I know it. They can help. Like, Jesus can heal you. And he had agreed to initially, and then he pulled out from it. So the day that he pulled out, I called Pure Life Ministries and I explained what happened. And I was also going to wait on my counseling end. because I couldn't afford it. And the woman on the other line said, you already have one parent that can't see past their addiction for the sake of your children. They don't need to. And I was like,
wow.
Oh, talk about a punch. Like, you're right. I'm not seeing past his addiction for the sake of my children. I need to get well. And so we worked out a payment plan, and I moved forward with the program. And every week I had to email in my homework, and I would be up. I was so hungry for the Lord. Like, I would wake up with panic attacks, and I just had, at that point it was called Rev FM. I don't listen to the radio anymore. I always have Spotify on, but
yeah, me too.
I had Rev FM on all the time. And so it was just playing in my house on the radio constantly. And I would wake up in the middle of the night, and it was always the worship song I needed at that time. And I couldn't even breathe, really. It just felt so heavy and dark. So I just would think the lyrics to the song. And I just remember saying, like, Jesus, I need your presence. I need you to breathe through me, Lord. I can't catch my breath. And slowly I would come out of it. But he was just my everything. He was the literal breath in my lungs. I remember I had to roll off the bed one night, and Oceans was on. And I just remember being on my knees, just with any strength I could grab, just singing, like, keep my head above the water.
Yeah.
Keep my head above the water. And, I had a really good friend who was also, one of my pastors at the time. And he was counseling me sort of in between before I actually got into the program, because there was a little lag for about a month before I could get official. And I called him one day when it was just really dark, and he said, the darkest day is still only 24 hours, 1 minute at a time.
Yeah. And
I still think of that. That was like my breath, even in the police academy, when they're like, run another lap. And I'm like,
oh no,
holy crap, I'm going to die. Okay. The worst day is still 24 hours. Take another step.
Yeah. That was like through my journey. I'm like, it was literally like 15 minutes at a time. It's like, that's all I could literally take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know those days.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't even think of the next hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, so a few months into my counseling journey, it was a 6-month program. About 3 months in, my counselor, she said she felt like we kind of hit a wall. And she's like, this is not your fault, but we're hitting a wall here, and the enemy really has some ties to you here. And I have a family member who's also a biblical counselor, and her story is similar to yours. And I think maybe she can help you break through some of these. And I'm not leaving you, but we're going to team this. We're going to tag team this. So she connected me with this beautiful woman from Oklahoma with the best accent in the world.
I know. I want the Southern accent so bad.
If you ever need, like, she's like the most firm, sweetest sounding person ever. Like, she can kick me in the butt, and I'm just like, oh
yeah, thank you. So bless your heart.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But the Lord uses her in very wonderful ways that I had not experienced yet in my walk with the Lord to that point. I hate using the word like prophetic because it gets so thrown around. Mm-hmm. But she didn't know me, but the Lord just gave her everything she needed to know about me, where I was stuck exactly. And so for 3 days, I always call it my resurrection period, because for 3 days, we would talk on the phone, and she would work me to a point by asking questions, and we would pray and asking questions and pray. And we would get to a certain point, and she would say, okay, this is you and Jesus. I'm hanging up. You call me back in 3 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, no.
Yeah, we're not done here.
No. No. Yeah. And so, and it would be a cliffhanger. It's like, I need you. Like, no. And she's like, no, I'm not your savior. You go to Jesus. And so I would dig in for 3, 4, 5 hours, and then I would call her back. And she's like, all right, come on. What'd you get? What are you coming up with? And I'm like, well, I was just writing, and I was in scripture where you told me to go, and the Lord showed me this and this. And it was just over the course of those 3 days, the chains that the Lord broke me free from, I mean, they went all the way back to when I was 3 years old. Things that I didn't forget, but I brushed away. Mm-hmm. I had some sexual abuse when I was a very young kid by someone my age. Like, it was kid on kid sexual abuse, which happens a lot. And I never knew what to do with that. So I just sort of put it in a kids stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But it really affected my mind and my heart moving forward through my life. And it set up a pattern of things that I accepted for the way I was treated throughout my life. And yeah, the Lord just broke me free from so many things and healed up my heart in such a quick, it's like, I think of it and I'm like, that was like, I don't know, 10 years of counseling in like 3 days. Like,
wow.
I barely slept. I don't think I ate really. It was sort of like fasting without intentionally fasting. Because I was just so filled up on the Lord. So after those 3 days, she was like, yeah, and this is where Jesus told me we were going to be. And it's so beautiful. Like, this is, Jesus brought you to life. And I really started to grasp then thriving instead of just survival mode. Like, when I'm in those 15 minutes where I can only take 15 minutes at a time, it's like, okay, but what is good right now? What is true? What is good? What is real? Like, you know, I'm body scanning. I'm like, can I feel my feet? Can I feel my hands?
Yeah.
Okay, I can breathe. Okay, God is good. All good things come from God. And start running through in my mind just to get me through that moment, that panic, so I can really start breathing and really start moving forward. And I still talk with her. She came out here and we did a little mini conference for a couple of days. And I'm actually hoping that we get to do that again.
Yeah, let me know if you do.
Yeah, for sure. I want to bring her out and do another women's conference at some point. We're praying about it. See what that needs to look like. But yeah, so all of that, I finished out the counseling stuff, and throughout that process, I was also volunteering at a youth ministry in Clearfield on Friday nights. It was a way I could use my time when the kids were with their dad. And there was a guy that worked there too, who I thought was cute, but I wasn't looking. I was not looking for a husband. I was so done. I was like, this whole thing that me and Jesus got going on is like so fun, and I love it. And if this is me and Jesus and my kids for the rest of my life, I'm so good.
You're good. Yep.
Yeah. But apparently he liked me too, and he took an interest. And so we've now been married almost 9 years, and he's awesome. He's like, God just sent him to me and my kids.
It's almost like God knew.
Yeah. It's like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like he acts like a professional or something.
I know, right? The first week when I left my ex-husband, I remember being in my dad's driveway, and I looked up through this big old pine tree toward, I don't know, the heavens, toward God, I guess, where I thought he was or whatever.
I know that. Maybe just because we know heaven's up, but that's like, that's how I feel too. Like, I always look up. That's where I feel, but he's all around us, and it's so weird. I don't know.
Like, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like this is.
You always look up. Yeah.
Like, I need self-connection to hold it up. Yeah. So I remember I looked up through this big pine tree, and I said, God, I've been lonely for a long time. I can do that. But if you have a husband for me, he can't have any kids, because I got my own mess here. And I don't want to bring anyone else's kids into this. And I don't want any more children. I don't want to have any more kids. I know families that are blended, and they do it well, and they figure it out. And it's hard, but they figure it out. And there's the Lord in the midst, and there's so much beauty there, but I just didn't want to do it. I just decided I didn't want it. And so I made up my mind that day, and I said, God, that's the only way I'm going to know he's from you, is if he doesn't have kids and he doesn't want kids of his own. But he's more than willing to take mine. And I know I'm asking a lot. It seems one-sided, but and that was my husband, Tyler. He was just, I remember telling him, like, hey, like, if we're going to move forward, like, our first conversation was me telling him all the reasons he shouldn't pursue me, essentially. I'm like, I've had trauma. Here's this, here's that, here's the other. Like, I don't know what intimacy is going to look like, because that's a mess. And, oh yeah, by the way, I don't want any more kids. So if you want children of your own, you should probably keep looking for a woman, because it's not me. And he was like, that's fine. And I'm like, no, you need to go and pray about this for a while, and then come back and talk to me. And he did. He was like, no, I want this, like all of it. Now on the hhard days now, he might be like, oh, I didn't know what I was signing up for.
Looking back, he's like,
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And those first several years were tough. We didn't know what we were doing. He didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know. We didn't know how to move forward, and he had been a bachelor, like, up until he was in his late 20s. So then he joins us in our chaos.
And he gained 4 kids.
Oh, yeah, all at once, pre-trauma and everything. Yeah. But, God is so good and so graceful in the midst. Like, just, we've learned and our kids have learned, how to have healthy boundaries, how to challenge one another. Our kids are allowed to challenge us. If they don't agree with the way we're doing something, we would rather them speak up. Mm-hmm. And they might be wrong. They probably will be.
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah.
But sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're like, hey, you guys were inconsistent. Like, you said this, but you did this. Like, and that's tough when your kid calls you out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I don't like that.
No. But we try to just create an atmosphere in our home where that's welcome, because, you know, if we can't even take criticism from the ones that love us the most, how are we going to grow in relationships at all? Yeah. Oh, man. So that's a real fast flyover. Gets us to pretty much current day. So we'll rewind a little bit. My husband, Tyler, and I, we bought a house that was not livable because that's all we could afford. And I knew how to do some stuff because I grew up with my dad on a farm. So I always say I was his oldest son. Like, I was just doing all the things with him. Mud and drywall, putting screws in, fixing the tractors, whatever needed done. Yeah. And I loved it. So I was like, oh, we got this. Look at this house. We can fix this up. Good grief. So we spent 6 months fixing it up, and then we moved into it. And we only got the upstairs done. So the downstairs was still pretty rough. It still is to this day. It's on the list. Yeah, so we moved into this house. And we're just kind of chipping away at things and figuring out how to be a family still. It was only about a year into our marriage. And we got, like, the upstairs bathroom was done, and we had some downstairs stuff, getting done. And the house next door was sitting empty for quite a while. And, man, it was just rough. It was so sad because it was, like, a nice house at one point, but just life. The older couple that lived there passed away. The husband passed away, and then the wife went to a home, and then one of my friends actually bought it, and then she ended up with cervical cancer, and it took her life pretty quickly. And so then it was just empty. And we were looking at it one day, and we were like, what if we bought that house and fixed it up and sold it? We could pay off ours then, and then like we'd be maybe a little bit ahead. So we did that. We bought that house next door with a private investor who agreed to go along with our crazy plan. And we bought that house, and about halfway through that house, we decided to open a coffee shop because our whole passion was to bring life to the community. That was a really big reason why we decided to buy that house. I mean, obviously there were financial gain too to help us out, but we didn't want another house on Main Street falling down. Yeah. Just being,
I know, it hurts my heart seeing these vacant houses that somebody could be in.
Yeah, it's just so sad. So as we're about halfway through that, I was sort of daydreaming about like having a coffee shop, and it wasn't anything serious. And we happened to know the person who owned the building in town, the old bank building, and he caught wind that we were thinking about doing this. And he approached us and kind of gave us a, like, we had to move quick if we wanted it. He said, like, hey, he was in it with a partner. He said, hey, me and my partner, like, my partner wants to sell. I don't ever want to sell this building. I love it. I don't know why, but he's like, I love it. I don't ever want to sell it. But if I can get a lease on it, then I can justify not selling it. And we really cared about him and his heart for things at the time as we understood it. So we were like, well, you know, it was very unwise financially. We did not have the money or the time or the energy to do this. But I really was catching the passion of like bringing life to the community. So I really wanted it. So I pretty much begged my husband to come on board, and he did. And it was good for a time. It was really good. We had so many good moments there, but it was also wildly difficult. We lost probably about $2,000 to $3,000 monthly.
Wow.
While we were in that location. We ended up about a year in, we bought a mobile unit, and that was profitable, but all the money from the mobile unit fed the brick and mortar shop. So behind the scenes, I'm just juggling things all the time, running numbers, trying to think up events and ideas and ways to keep things going. We had a manager there. She's amazing. Like, my time there with her was just so beautiful. I feel like we grew up a little bit together too.
Mm-hmm.
She turned into one of our extra kids, and that was really good. And we had a lot of really beautiful community moments during those 3 years. But it just came to a head where things had to end. We couldn't keep losing the money that we were losing. And we were responsible for everything in the building. So the heat, if something broke, it was on us. And we agreed to that. But we covered the property taxes, like literally everything. We agreed to that. Because we wanted to see good things happen in the community. And we were a little bit concerned that those things might not get covered if we didn't deal with it. So we made sure to do that. And we did the whole time. But yeah, we just got to a point where it was like, we can't keep doing this. Like, it's going to sink our whole family. And my husband and I went camping one weekend to just get away and reevaluate things. And we just cried, and we told the Lord, like, we're doing this because we want your light here. Like, we want to bring people together. We want to love people. We want to have a space for people to feel like they can come together, not be rushed out, or, there's nothing in this town, but the money's not there. And by the end of that weekend, it was just very clear to us, like, it was time to close the doors and move on. And that was a tough decision. And there were a lot of relationships bruised as a result too, just people that we were in business with and stuff. But things are so good now that I see why we had to let that go. It created a somewhat of a vacuum in the town too, where we were before. My husband and I were, this town is so small. It's like 400 people, but like, it's sad because it used to be thriving. There used to be a lot going on, but now there's just nothing. And I'm seeing now where people are like, they're having a little kids carnival up on the street, and other people are starting to step in.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's good. It's really good. So yeah, that was last summer we decided to close. And, after that, we had closed the shop, and we were sitting on our front porch. And we also did this summer event called Family Day. And we did that every year for 5 years. And then last year we decided it would be our final year, because we funded that whole thing ourselves too. With the exception of a couple $1,000s we would raise from chicken dinners that the fire hall would donate. So we would sell them, and then that would cover like usually about $1,500 of our cost. But our cost was like $5,000 or $6,000 every year. So we're just like bleeding for years into this town. And we were okay with that. Like, we were willing to make that sacrifice, but it was getting to a point where we just couldn't anymore. And so we decided that was going to be our final year. So we closed the coffee shop, and then we had our final summer event, and we were just sitting on our front porch, and my husband goes, well, what's next? And 3 trucks came flying down through town at the same exact time, like just reckless speeds. I was so mad because my kids cross the road all the time to go to the park. And I'm like, this is insane. I hate it. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll be the sheriff of the town next. I was like, and he's like, you should. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the sheriff of this town. But it brought about the conversation, and it sort of put some wind in those embers of what I had always dreamed of, being in law enforcement. And I started talking about that to my husband, and he's like, go do it. Just go do it. And I'm like, I'm old as far as going into a police academy is concerned. Like, I'm 38 years old. I am a solid 50 pounds overweight. Yeah. Like, on a good
I can't even imagine running a mile right now.
I'm like, this is not feasible. And he's like, go look up the qualifications and just see. Like, if you want to do it, go do it. Why not? He's like, we've spent more money on more stupid things.
Yeah.
Like, go do it. At least then we'll make money back.
Yeah.
So I started looking into it, and I found out that the criteria actually was within reach. because I jogged a little bit before anyway. I am not fast. I'm so slow. But because I'm a little bit older, the criteria is a little bit different.
Okay.
So, I found out I had to do a 1.5 mile run in under 16 minutes and 30 seconds. And I didn't even know what my time was. I never timed myself. So
Except for that gym mile that you had to run in high school. Did you guys have?
I walked it.
I walked it too, I guess. Yeah.
I never ran it. I always walked it. It was like 20 minutes because I just walked it. Yeah.
You're right. I walked it.
Yep. I was terrible. I was a terrible human. I was like, I'm not running if you tell me to run. Yeah. Yeah. So I went up to the high school close to our house and I ran 1.5 miles and I did it in like 19 minutes. And I was like, I have 6 months before the academy starts. I should be able to shave this down. Like if I lose some weight and I keep training, I could probably do this. So we decided that that was going to be my next step. I looked into some jobs and I researched it some, but I just decided that's what I wanted to do. And we talked to the kids and we were like, hey, this is going to be, it's a 22-week program. So it's going to be about 5 months of really intense, like mom's gone. Like I'm out.
Yeah, so you guys need to step up.
Yeah. And we asked them how they felt about it. We're like, this is what mom wants to do, and we're kind of making that decision, but how do you feel about this? And how willing are you to jump in? Because we don't want to just throw this on you and then you're resentful. Mm-hmm. We want you to, we need a team. Like, I needed a team behind me at home for me to be successful, because I can't separate that. Like, if someone at home needs me and I'm at school, mm-hmm. I'm going to pull myself away to home.
Yeah.
And I just knew myself enough at that point to realize it. And all 3 of the kids that were still home, because my oldest had already left, they were like, do it. Go do it. That's amazing. You're so cool.
That was so cool.
Yeah, that's what they said.
Cool, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I applied and I went for the first PT test and I crushed the sprint and the sit-ups and the push-ups, and then I missed the 1.5 miles by 2 minutes. Like the whole lap around the track. And I was like, man, I never ran on a track before in my whole life. That was the first time, was that PT test. But I was like, okay, this is in reach. I can do this. So I trained for another about 6 weeks and I went back and took the test again and I passed it.
Sweet.
And yeah.
You showed them. You showed that track.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started in January. It's a 22-week program at IUP in Indiana, Pennsylvania. I drove 82 miles every day to and from.
You are a freaking rock star, man.
I don't know. I cried. A lot of those drives were crying.
Oh, I would have
too. An hour and a half of just PT was so hard. Like the physical training aspect. I was never an athlete. I didn't even run the mile in high school. Like I said, mm-hmm. I walked it. I signed up for soccer when I was in 9th grade. And then they were like, we got to condition and run. And I was like,
no, thanks.
No, I signed up to kick a ball. Why are we running? Because I didn't know that soccer was all running at that point. I wasn't an athlete. I didn't care to do any of that when I was younger. So I was never in an environment where I was really pushing myself or where I had someone else pushing me physically. And the PT mornings were rough. They were rough. But the instructors that they had there were so good. They there's a standard. And they don't care about your excuses. Like, mm-hmm. You can't do another push-up? I don't care. Figure it out. Do another push-up and don't drop. Like, that's not an option. And I'd never been in that kind of environment before. So it was so good. It fed. I am Enneagram 8, so I'm a challenger. And it fed that part of me where it's just that FU energy. And I'm like, no way. I'm going to do it. If my arms fall off, I will do another push-up. Yeah. So it was tough. Academically, it wasn't real hard for me. I love learning. But they were long days. We would do PT in the morning and then we would sit in a classroom. And then I get all stiff because I'm 38. And so then we would get
You're like, lunch. Oh, you can't get up out of your chair.
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
That's how I am now.
Yeah. My hips hurt so bad. But it was good. We, about halfway through, we had our midterm PT test. So you have to take a PT test to enter. And then it's the same criteria the whole way. So it doesn't get harder, but you have to maintain it. So we did our midterm PT test and I passed it. And I took 2 more minutes off my 1.5 mile time. So I was down to 14:40. I was so excited.
That's awesome.
And the ne'xt day, the instructor said I had to start working on the obstacle course. He was worried I might not get over the wall because I am 5'2", 3, maybe somewhere in there. And the wall's a 5-foot wall.
Oh.
And you gotta get over it.
Yeah.
And there's no stool. Like, you gotta just figure it out. And I'm like looking at that wall and I'm like, holy crap, I don't know. Because I'm bottom heavy too. So like, how am I gonna get my rear end up over this wall?
Yeah.
So I did it so many times. I finally got over it the one day. The next day I come back and he's like, you need to go run that wall again. You gotta keep doing it until you can just get up over it easy. And I'm like, oh, my body hurts so bad. But okay. And I knew I shouldn't do it. Like, something in me was like, no, you need a day off, a rest. But I went out and did it anyway. And he wasn't like watching me. He was just like, do it. Like, you need to keep doing it. Stay consistent.
Yeah, just give me that encouragement.
Yeah. So I go out and one of the other female cadets was running the wall. And I'm like, I'll do it too. Because she was having a hard time too. And I'm like, I did it yesterday. Let's see if I can do it again. And I went up to do it again. And whenever I went to jump, my knee, so my foot stayed planted, but everything else moved. And I'm not quite sure what all I did inside my knee, but it was not good. I haven't gotten an MRI yet. I'll get one in the next month or so, but I'm pretty sure my sports medicine doctor / chiropractor said there's definitely some ACL injury, MCL, and meniscus stuff going on.
Yikes.
There. Yeah. So I still had about 12 weeks of the academy left and another PT test before I would pass. And I thought, how am I going to do this? Like, I went into the director's office and the director of the academy, man, she's tough. She's a tough lady.
She probably has to be.
For sure. 100%. And she had a whole law enforcement career. Man, she was running and gunning with the best of them. Like, I respect her a ton. She was a very good role model for females and for males too. But, I went into her office and I just started crying and I'm like, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm wrong for even crying, but I'm so mad. I'm so mad. Like, I was doing so well and my knee just, and she's like, okay, get a doctor's excuse and figure it out. And that was it. And I was like, okay. So I went to my sports medicine doctor / chiropractor and, she held me together for the rest of the academy. I would see her about once a week and she would keep it taped up and medicupped and all the natural things we could do. And she kept it stable and I kept training the way she taught me to, things that she would give me in office to do. And, I've never been as happy as I was that last day that I passed that final PT test.
I can't even imagine that journey. There's no way I could do all that. I mean, well, especially now, but even before, I don't think I could do all that physical activity.
It was a lot.
Way too much.
It was a lot.
Man.
I remember our first day of defensive tactics, and we had defensive tactics every Friday. And that was self-defense, weapon retention. There's a lot of jiu-jitsu mixed into it. A lot of different things. But the biggest thing is they're trying to build us up so that we have stamina. So that we can last in a fight, cardio-wise, everything. And our first defensive tactics class was so hard. We did so many push-ups. I got my period that morning.
Go figure.
And then we had PT, and then we're in defensive tactics. And we did so many push-ups. We did one where we were all like in a lot, like we were all connected, like our feet were on each other's backs across the entire gym. And we did one big push-up, like the whole class up. And, and we did that like 2 or 3 times. I thought I was going to absolutely die. And I was crying. We're pushing each other up. And I'm like,
that would be me.
Yeah.
So emotional.
And then we were done and I'm like, holy crap, I did that. Like, I just did that.
Wow.
So it was very empowering for sure. Yeah.